So as you heard before the break, we were actually going to come over here to the workbench, talk about rigs and techniques on how to catch amberjacks. Just opened in Texas. So.
Yep, May 1st, and it lasts for the whole month, and then it comes back in August, I think. They open up again for a little short season. But, you know, the amberjack is a very powerful, strong fish. It's a jack, for one thing, and all jacks are pretty strong. But the amberjack is, because he's more streamlined, he's got a nice big forked tail. He's a very powerful fish. So when you're fishing for him, you got to have the right gear. You know, you can't just go out there and mess around with them, because a 50-pound amberjack will pull most fish, you know, backwards through the water. So anyway, and they're often found around structure. So that's another problem. You know, they're always going to be found in artificial reef, a wreck, oil rig. You know, they're structure-oriented fish, and usually above the structure. But you start fishing on the bottom all the time. You know, whenever you're jigging or whatever. Most of the time, they target them in Texas around the oil rigs, and what they'll do is they'll get a live bait. They love any kind of live bait: a blue runner, a big pinfish, little tuna. You know, a 100-pound amberjack will inhale a 3-pound tuna fish. So you're going to want to get a 50-pound outfit like this. This pin 50, you know, it's a 2-speed, which will help a lot. You know, this one's spooled with 80-pound test mono and a 100-pound Mamoy leader. Probably, you know, you want 10 feet or so, just in case he gets wrapped up in something. You might be able to get him out. A nice big trocar. This is a trocar 9/0. You know, with a little offset on it. It's an octopus hook, it's snelled on there. What you really have to worry about with your hooks is once the guy grabs the leader, the pressure goes from whatever your angler could hold to now what's in the mate's hand. And your hook has to be able to not straighten out when a 100-pound amberjack starts swimming on it. So, you know, the bigger, thicker hook that you use, you're going to be okay with. This is, you know, you want a 6-foot rod, a short rod, because that gives you the leverage. If you're using a really long rod and you get a big fish on the other end, you can't really lift him. But when you have a nice short rod, you can really put the power to to an amberjack or any kind of fish, actually. You know, a short rod is a shorter lever, and it makes it easier on you. It's better fulcrum, and you can really crush a fish if you have a short rod and, you know, short pumps. And you're going to have a good belt and one with a gimbal in it. You know, don't go cheap and get one without a pin. Right. You know, you got to have your rod's going to have a gimbal on it. You want your rod to have a gimbal, and you want your
so the two can marry together.
And that keeps things from twisting.
Right.
And when you got a lot of pressure on a fish, you don't want it to be twisting around, because you end up fighting the rod and reel.
Right.
And that pin really helps.
It's hard enough without.
Correct.
So good point, Dave.
Yeah, you always want to make sure you have, you know, and if you can get a shoulder harness, AFTCO makes a really nice shoulder harness. Don't be afraid to put one of those things on and clip in, because it makes it 10 times easier when you're using those big live bait and you're catching the bigger ones.
So if you don't have live bait, so what do you suggest? Big jig?
A big jig or a swim bait really works well. You want something like 5 ounces or something, because you're fishing in deep water. You know, you're usually starting fishing at 150 feet, all the way out to 400 feet, and you want to start on the bottom. You drop that thing all the way to the bottom. You want something that'll get down there pretty quickly. Like if you're using a flutter jig, you don't want to use one of the long ones. You want to use the little short fat one that'll haul butt and get down to the bottom. And then you work it up about halfway up the water column, and then drop it back down. It's good to have a nice, if you use your Garmin and get a good picture of where these fish are, because usually you'll see them suspended above the wreck. Usually about halfway up. That's what they say. If you're in 150 feet of water, 75 feet up, that's where you'll see them circling that wreck a lot of times. But anytime you can use a big, at least a 5-ounce swim jig of some sort, with a big fish paddle tail on it, that's a great bait to use as well. You just put it flutter all the way to the bottom, and then fast jig it up halfway, drop it back down, keep and repeat. Keep doing it until one snacks.
Let that paddle tail jubilate.
Right. And you can use, a good 6,500 spinning reel is what you want to use, maybe with 50 to 80 pound braid on it, because, you're going to have to put a lot of pressure on the fish.
This is the Fenwick 8-foot extra heavy spinner.
Yeah.
And boy, it's got super power. I've been using it.
And that's what you need,
for tarpon fishing.
That's what you're going to need to lift those
pull down on that.
amberjacks up.
I mean,
you know.
this rod will hurt you.
Yeah, a lot. You know, the last time I fished for him, we were fishing in 400 feet of water, and we were catching 80 to 100 pounders.
Oh.
And after the third one, you know, I hooked it up, and I said, "Oh man, I think I'm on the wreck." And I knew I wasn't on the wreck. The mate said, "Oh, let me see." And he grabbed a hold of it, and he goes, "No, you got to fish." And I go, "No, you got to fish, buddy. That one's yours." Because I'm not messing with that thing anymore. I'm
You better remember that trick, Brie.
because yeah, those things they'll kill you. They'll kill you. You know, if you're going to be getting a live bait, it's a really good idea to use a live bait that you're fishing from that place. You know, you can catch those live baits on the wreck that you're on, and you know, use some R&R sabikis, which are really good. You know, those are the 30-pound. So you know.
Yeah, they got plenty of heavy to catch those hard tails or blue runners, whichever you prefer to call them tonight, Brie.
You've got to fish. No, you've got to fish. I like that. I think I'm going to use that next time.